Welcome back. An investigation is now underway into a deadly Amtrak collision that took place in Colorado. According to police, the van did not stop for the train and was subsequently hit on its right side. A 4-year-old girl is now the sole survivor in that minivan after her parents, along with her 3 sisters, her young sisters, were killed. None of the 286 passengers on board that Amtrak train injured. The cause of the crash is still unclear, but authorities don't believe that alcohol or drugs were involved. Well, politics now. New national polls casting dark clouds over the Trump campaign. The latest Wall Street Journal NBC News poll showing Hillary Clinton 5 points ahead, 46-41. Now check out this Washington Post ABC News poll. Trump is behind by 12 points, 51-39. Chris Stirewalt is a Fox News digital politics editor and the author of Fox News First. Chris, thanks for joining us. Can you explain the difference in these polls?
Well, a poll can be statistically sound, methodologically correct. It can be right, if you will, but not predictive. Pollsters have different views of what the general election electorate is going to look like this year. How many white dudes, how many women of color, how old, how young. These are things that pollsters control for. So they look for a sample of voters that includes what they think will be a representative sample. And, of course, there are deviations within, even if we have the same idea, when we randomly reach 1,000 people, you and I could come up with different results, maybe not as different as 7 points necessarily, but we're going to come up with different results because we're going to have a different 1,000 people. That's why we have margins of errors and percent confidence
polls. I mean, one with him 12 points behind and one with him 5 points behind. But I want to talk about this because there's been a lot of conversations today about the ABC Washington Post poll and whether or not they oversampled Democrats. Donald Trump coming out with a pretty vivid tweet saying this: the ABC poll sample is heavy on Democrats, very dishonest. Why would they do that? Other polls good. But, you know, Chris, I'm sure you heard this today. Our head of polling had this to say about it. She said, the polls don't oversample Democrats, and neither do we. It's just a fact these days that voters seem more likely to consider themselves Democrat than Republicans. So is there any merit to what Donald Trump is claiming now?
Well, we should first point out that Dana Blanton is marvelous in so many ways. And that is one of the ways in which she's marvelous because it's a straightforward, clear-headed way to put it. We don't, when we poll, when legitimate news organizations like us poll, we don't look for a set number of Democrats or Republicans. We look for an electorate that looks like America, and then we say, and how do you consider yourself, Democratic, Republican, or Independent? The split between, here's the thing that Republicans sometimes have a hard time accepting. There are just more Democrats in America than there are Republicans. In the 2012 election, on Election Day, when that exit poll was taken, guess what? There were 6 points more Democrats than there were Republicans. That's how it is in America, and that's why Republicans rely so much on independent voters to make up for the gap. That's just the truth.
Yeah, just dem the facts right there from the exit polls from 2012. Let me ask you about this. Back to our current polling, and as you just highlighted, there are more Democrats than registered Republicans nowadays. But let's talk about those independent voters. When you apply the independent voters and when you apply third-party voters, look at this. Clinton 39, Trump 38, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, 10%, Jill Stein from the Green Party, 6%. So you throw in Johnson and Stein, and that could completely throw the race.
Well, that's in the Wall Street Journal poll, and of course it depends on which states they have access and how seriously they're being taken. But I think it is a reflection of the deep dissatisfaction that many have with both major party nominees, and this is why both Trump and Clinton are working so hard right now to try to connect or reconnect with their party's bases, to try to get their folks to the polls so that they don't suffer the fall away. The problem with third-party candidacies is this: it's the viability threshold. People are only going to do so much in terms of casting a vote that's symbolic. Otherwise, they stay home or end up voting for a major party nominee. But right now, we can definitely take that as a metric of dissatisfaction with both major party nominees.
Well, if they're Bernie Sanders supporters and they're not sticking with Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders is casting his vote to Hillary Clinton, then you have to wonder what's going to happen to those people, because a lot of them don't like the establishment. Not so crazy about Hillary Clinton. All right.
I think you're onto something.
Oh, I'm onto something. Chris Stirewalt. Chris, thanks a lot. You always are. Great to see you.
You bet.